As far as the ink matter is concerned, there have been a number of issues raised about the fact that the ink was removable and not as indelible as it ought to be. And if we as the IEC say that the ink is indelible, we must make sure that it really is indelible ink that people are using. But I think we must also hasten to add that this is not a general matter. It's not a universal problem. It's not something that happened to all people who have ink. There's still people who are walking around with ink on their nails, that they didn't get off. There are other people who went to great extent to get rid of the ink, using all sorts of chemical substances and so on to prove what point we don't know quite. But I do think it's a serious matter. It's serious enough for us not to deal with it through a sensationalist way. By media. I shouldn't be talking to you about it. I should be talking to the people who are making the accusations. They should be engaging with us formally so that where necessary, the Commission can make a decision as to whether they are going to charge people who have committed this electoral fraud and those even who have tried to vote a second time, that they should also possibly be charged for electoral fraud. I think it's important that we get that kind of information, but to sow a whole lot of suspicion around these issues is, I think, a little bit irresponsible, especially the politicians that are involved. And I do think, however, that we must make sure as the IEC that if we say that the ink is indelible, we must make it indelible. But I think that the important thing for me is that, and what is necessary for South Africans to understand it like that, is simply to say that if there are people who have got this particular problem, not everybody does. There are some people whose ink stains are still there, and there are other people who went to great extents to get rid of them. Others have said that they lost it in the shower, but when I asked the next question, they said, I had to rub a little bit. So I don't think we must allow it to get out of hand completely. It's something that is quite manageable. Look, I think that what we did in the Western Cape, we planned for 100% of ballot papers per voting station, plus 25% of surplus ballot papers. So where we had problems of voting stations, and there were just a few voting stations that ran out of ballot papers, it simply means that more people voted than what we have, the 100% plus the 25% surplus. So I think that is easily addressed, and the easy address of it is simply to move the ballot papers from other place to where it is required the best. But in order for it to be as secure as possible, we do not move any ballot papers without police escort, and that took a little bit of time, but the net effect is that it frustrated quite a number of people. And that is what we feel sorry about, as the IEC, that we did frustrate people in that kind of way. But it was very simple to address the problem and manage the problem. It happened sort of early afternoon kind of thing, and then after that, I think things were under control. Look, I don't foresee that it could influence the outcome of the election. There is in election management the term of materiality. Is something that happened material to the outcome of the election. So if the inking or the people who voted twice, or the fact that the ballot papers ran out in a particular voting station could materially affect the outcome of the election, it's not possible in terms of my understanding of the situation. But however, I think that the important thing at the end of the day is we have to make sure that the process is as smoothly arranged as possible. An election is never without hiccups. There's no such thing as a perfect election. The best that we can do is to ensure that the things, that the glitches are managed in a proper way, in such a way that it does not cause too much consternation. And I think that people must just accept the fact that to sow unnecessary suspicion in the minds of people is an irresponsible thing to do. I think that the overall feeling for me in this election is one of great excitement. I'm very excited. about the fact that we have opened all our voting stations on election day. Few of them opened a little later than what they should have opened, but very early in the day, about an hour into the voting process, they were all open, 100% open. I think for me that's a very exciting thing. I think it's probably the first time that it happened like that in the Western Cape since I've been around. There's never been a glitch-free election, but I think that the important thing is how well we were able to manage whatever goes wrong. Our staff here, my colleagues, have done excellent work, but we must also remember that just under 20,000 people are in the voting stations. Any one of them can do something that they didn't foresee, and they can be confronted with a situation they didn't foresee. And it's how well we were able to manage those things. And as far as that is concerned, I'm very excited about how our staff were able to manage that particular situation. I'm also excited about the interest shown by the observers who were out here, and the diplomatic corps who responded to our invitation to come around and go on a bus tour to some of the voting stations. I'm excited about the Electoral Code of Conduct Observer Commission and the prayers that were offered yesterday morning. I was excited about the singing of the national anthem before it all started here in the Results and Operations Center. I'm excited by the response of the political parties here and the interest that they show. And the things that they were saying last night were actually quite lovely to hear from them, those who were thanking us so profusely for the work that we did. They did not mince their words in terms of saying where they were unhappy, and we appreciate that as well, because it gives us an opportunity to grow and to get better than what we are. So I think all in all, I think a very exciting project. I'm excited about the panelists who went into communities and the fact that we didn't have great disruptions of our electoral processes in the province. But the people who have been in the voting stations have been, on the whole, quite magnificent.